We have a guest. Let's get to it on the TELUS Insider Hotline. We head to, I believe, Portland, Oregon. Dan Near, the new WHL Commissioner. Sir, how are you today?
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me. And yes, Portland, Oregon.
This is quite something. You were unveiled, I believe, last week as the new commissioner of the WHL, and you even got to get on the Flames broadcast. But I think Connie had just made a trade for Zadorov, and they're like, Dan Near, new commissioner. What do you want to do on the job? 10 seconds or less.
It was a quick hit, but I appreciate the opportunity. It was great to get up to Calgary. You know, I'm from the East Coast, from Ontario, but I've been in the U.S. a long time. So being back in Calgary, being in the rink, it was a lot of fun. And I'm sure they'll have a little more time for me down the road and maybe I'll have more to talk about too once I get a seat.
So walk us through your career to end up in the commissioner's chair in the WHL. Is this the type of job that's always been on your radar? Did someone come out of the blue and say, hey, have you ever thought about this? Like, how did we arrive here? Because I believe you're even still at your old work, or at least, just exiting the process of leaving Portland, whatever it is. You worked for Adidas. That's not necessarily a straight line.
Yeah, fair enough. But I've been connected to hockey for really my whole life, but in the business of hockey for the last 20 years or so. And I'll probably give you the medium version of it. But I had a couple really interesting opportunities going back to high school and college. One, I worked in the TSN newsroom and really got my first taste of here's what happens behind the scenes. Like, as a young athlete and fan of sport, you never really know what goes on behind the scenes. But I was working on Sports Center. It was called Sports Desk at the time, making highlight packs for baseball games and running teleprompters and doing that kind of thing. But I was at Western in London, Ontario. I went there to actually play football that I crapped out after a year and ended up the color analyst the rest of the way on campus radio. But I took a year and left the program for credit to go down to New York City and work at NBC Sports, like in 30 Rockefeller Center. Dick Ebersol's down the hall smoking cigars, working on, it was NBA on NBC, and they had just got arena football, Notre Dame football. And so I was getting exposed to this idea of sports business in a really big city environment, right? It was 2002 in New York City, right after 9/11. And I got the itch, guys. I'm like, okay, this is a path I want to take. So I finished my degree. I went in MBA school, and I actually thought I was going to end up in packaged goods. I had a job offer at Procter & Gamble to work on Herbal Essences shampoo. I was about to take the job, move back to Toronto. And somebody said, hey, while you're in New York visiting, you should go check out the NHL office. It's a beautiful office. It's in the middle of New York City. You've never had a chance. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So I visited the NHL. It was right after the 04-05 season-long lockout. And a consequence of that was most of the staff got let go. They were really, really lean at the time. So a walk around the office as kind of a graduating MBA about to go work in shampoo quickly turned into, oh, you could help us here. And so I declined. I was one of the few people that declined kind of the dream packaged goods job at Procter & Gamble in favor of, hey, my fiance at the time and I, we're going to move to New York City and try this NHL thing out. And so I worked in the licensing and consumer products group there. I spent 10 years there working on a variety of things. But what was, I think, a little parallel to where we are with the WHL is there was a little bit of an underdog nature of NHL at the time, especially in the US. If you remember at the time, hockey was on the Outdoor Life Network, was like the broadcast partner in the US. And it was and it was coming out of a year-long lockout. It was a fairly low point, and got to be a part of, hey, I believe in this. We can build this. We can generate interest and scale and excitement around what we're doing. And I had a great set of mentors. I had a lot of fun along the way. But I spent 10 years in New York City working on the business side at the NHL. From there, Adidas and the NHL got married. That was in 2016 at the World Cup of Hockey.
Sure.
And so I joined Adidas. I was kind of getting to the point. I had a 5-year-old and 2 4-year-old kids. The commute to New York City was a real grind. There's a ton of travel. And I wasn't sure if I was going to be a hockey guy for life. And Adidas was a chance to say, well, I'm going to maximize what I've done. I'm going to go work in the business of hockey, but on the Adidas side. And by the way, Adidas has so many tentacles. Maybe I'll go work on something else, not be typecast as a hockey guy for life. So I was wondering if I might get out of hockey when I made that move, but I led the global hockey business for Adidas. And if you recall, back at the World Cup, Adidas had never been on any hockey products short of some really old skates in like the 1960s and some European like Spengler Cup jerseys and that kind of thing, right? And so we got it out of the gate. We signed athletes, Crosby, McDavid, PK, Matt Barzal, we had women's hockey relationships. We launched Reverse Retro, a whole bunch of different initiatives that were really built around trying to build the impact brand-wise for the league through a consumer products partnership. I spent 8 years here now, dabbled in a bunch of other things at Adidas. And honestly, although Adidas and the NHL were coming to a close, I wasn't super anxious to get out. I had a good landing pad and working on really interesting things here. But when I heard Ron was retiring, when I got a couple calls from people involved with the league that said, hey, you should look at this, I'm like, yeah, I should. And, it was a 4 or 5 month process with a lot of intense conversations from not only the governors and the owners, but everybody I know in my kind of industry circles around, hey, what do you think of this? And people think that it's a good fit for me. I think it's a good fit for me. I got to show it now, but it's this idea of bringing hockey acumen and then commercial and business acumen together to try and propel the league forward.
Well, I think it's a great fit because I think the stereotype that maybe is true or maybe that the league has to fight is that it's an older brand, it's risk averse. What are you going to do to attract younger fans? Your background is I feel like this is a perfect fit in terms of, I love to see a league like the WHL going to a guy like you rather than some 70-year-old crony that's been working for the league for 50 years. What do you see as the brand you're now in charge of? Like, how do you view the WHL and its strengths versus the areas you want to improve?
So I think that hockey has probably, not just WHL, all hockey has been relatively slow moving as far as taking risks like this. And I don't know, if you think back to when the Winter Classic first launched back in 2008, maybe, that game in Buffalo, I see the Bills gear, Buffalo and Pittsburgh. It was trying something new that may have worked, may not have worked, that people maybe wouldn't have thought was possible, or you can't have a 2-point competitive game if it's snowing outside, and drawing lines in the sand around what hockey is or isn't, or can be or should be. And look, I'm not out here to change all the rules of the game. I'm not out here to take the heritage and tradition out of what Major Junior or Western Hockey League play is. I just think the idea of trying to create some energy around the product is something that will really resonate with the fans. And so I think a big thing people worry about is, it's a redistribution of wealth, so to speak. Like, let's cut the same pie a bunch of different ways. It's like, no, we're still going to do all the things we've always done to cater to and entertain the core fan. We can't alienate the core fan. Mm-hmm. But boy, I think there's a big opportunity to bring new fans into this sphere. I think there's an opportunity for people outside of the home market to care. So I want you to care about what's happening in Brandon and Manitoba. I want someone in Portland to care about what's going on with the Vancouver Giants. But you have to create platforms, content, exposure, storytelling in a way that makes it viable. So when one of our players is going off to play in the World Junior Championships, we better be documenting that and storytelling it and providing access to consumers. And that's not necessarily a singular path to revenue growth, but I do think that a lot of this loops back to familiarity with the product, interest in the product, commitment to the product. And our fans are blue collar fans. We're talking about a $20, $25 ticket to come to our games, and it's a choice. It's a choice. You can spend that money elsewhere, and we want to provide a platform and an opportunity that fans want to be in our buildings and want to experience what WHL has to offer.
Some of the early comments you had after taking the job were that you want to be a more attractive place for Americans, or at least recruit a higher percentage of Americans. We're seeing a lot of stronger leagues down there. USHL. A lot of kids in the college route have had a lot of success. What do you do to sell the WHL? And maybe what story isn't told enough to those people that maybe haven't considered the WHL strongly enough?
Yeah, I think the pervasive myth is that you're surrendering your education if you come and play major junior hockey, and that's actually not the case. Our scholarship program is pretty robust. I think there's 350 WHL alum alone right now in post-secondary education. Many of them playing hockey, over 200 of them playing hockey on the Canadian side of the border. But you earn a scholarship when you play with us. And so if you imagine somebody playing 5 years in our league, where it's an all expenses paid, billet family experience, all your gear, everything is covered, your travel is covered for 5 years with the team. Mm-hmm. And then you get 5 years of additional scholarship funding. You're under the WHL's wing, so to speak, for 10 years. And these owners are making significant commitments to you as a player and to your individual development. I was at the Portland game on the weekend, and I brought my family, which was a lot of fun. And I met the educational advisor, Sue, for the Winterhawks, and I hadn't had any exposure yet to any of these educational advisors. And what she was talking to me about is the collaboration she has with players coming from Manitoba, from Saskatchewan, from Alberta, and making sure the credits they're earning are transferred over. She talked to me about the idea that for players who have already graduated high school, they have 2 collegiate classes that are taught in the arena after the morning practice and before games. And like all these things that I didn't know about. I think we have to do a better job socializing and educating parents and prospective players about that dimension of the player experience, because the product on the ice is unquestionably a real gateway to the future, right? If you look at NHL opening night rosters, 20% came from the Western Hockey League. This is a great place to go if you want to become the best hockey player. But what is understated right now is the quality of people we're developing and the educational experience that comes along with it.
Are you moving to Calgary? I know league offices are here. And of course, we've got a bunch of great events. I know the Teddy Bear Toss just wrapped up. I recall taking my kids to a 17,000 person Connor Bedard game last year with Hitman when Regina passed through. Are you soon a Calgarian, or is this sort of still in indecision?
No, I'm soon a Calgarian. My plan is I'm planning to attend the Winter Classic in Seattle with my family, just up the road from us here, and I'm going to continue on up to Calgary from there. They're going to head back to Portland. They're going to finish up the school year in Portland, and our family will move to the Calgary area. Our COO, Greg Gardner, on Friday, the day after the press conference, took me for a little spin around town so I could start to get an idea of the different communities. And honestly, I've got a 13-year-old and 2 12-year-olds, making sure we get situated in a place where the schools are great, the sports and activities are great, and the community is great. Will be a huge priority. I've heard about these lake communities, and pond hockey is not a thing in Portland, Oregon. I can't wait to get out onto the ice and to dangle around some of the kids and show them I still got it.
Well, I got a great rental property for you. It's on a lake. It's all set up. It's ready to go.
So Rhett is in Buffalo. He's wearing the Buffalo gear.
Probably he doesn't know who Rhett is. Rhett is an ex-former Saskatoon Blade. I tried to buy the Blades when they were last for sale, probably 8 to 10 years ago. Played 3 years there. Big fan of the WHL. So congratulations on the new job. So and then I went on to play pro as well. But then I bought a house in Calgary and moved to Buffalo.
Rhett had stopped in Florida, Buffalo, and Calgary, and his wife's from Buffalo, and he spent the last year and a half there, I want to say, Rhett-ish, almost there. So there is a lovely house on a lake in Calgary. It's sitting empty that I'm sure we can connect you to with emails after the show. That's easy.
Let's do it.
Dan, congrats. We're looking forward to seeing you here in Calgary and welcoming you to the city. You're going to love it, and I think you're a great hire for the league. Thanks for sharing some time with us.
Nice to meet you, fellas. Talk soon.
Right on. There's Dan Near, new commissioner of the Western Hockey League, joining us on the TELUS Insider Hotline. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long-form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.